I'm not sure if she's still on. Yeah, there she is. Samantha, is that all right? We can roll right into it. All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. Well, guys, I started thinking about, I did a rev share training here on Big Win Wednesday a few weeks ago, and I used a PowerPoint, and I could certainly bring that up and share it with everybody. But I started thinking, maybe there's just value in just having kind of an unplugged revenue share conversation with whoever's on tonight. I will tell you just a little bit about my story so that you can appreciate why I'm so passionate about revenue sharing. I started off out of college with a degree in business management. I got an emphasis in marketing. I started off pre-med because I wanted to be a chiropractor, but I hated inorganic chemistry and zoology, and I just thought, nah. And then I went into the finance department, and I thought, man, I cannot stand the thought of being in a cubicle all my life, counting, crunching numbers. And so I switched over to the marketing department. And that's really what I've been doing professionally for the last, 1987, however long that is, a long time. And I was in corporate America for about 13 years before entrepreneurship found me. And I think I was born an entrepreneur because my mom was always in some sort of entrepreneurial venture. She still is at 84. She's selling some kind of lip sense product or something. I don't know, stays on 18 hours or whatever. But my mom's 84. She's still being an entrepreneur and still making money. And so I got the bug and I transitioned over a 14-month period. I was working for the Hughes pet food company at the time, selling yuppie puppy food for $50 a bag. And I just really kind of got burned out on corporate America. And a friend of mine introduced me to an opportunity, and it was in the direct selling industry. And I always thought that industry, network marketing, multi-level, whatever you want to call it, I always thought that was an industry that people got into that didn't have an education, or that just weren't that bright, or, they were, I don't know. I just had all these prejudgments of people that I knew that were in those kind of companies until I actually joined one and met a lot of people that did not have a private university education like I do, and were making 10, 20, 30, 50 times more a month or a year than I was. And I always like to joke, they weren't as good looking as me, they weren't as smart as me, and they weren't as charming as me, but they were making 50 times more than I was. And I started to humble myself and really just kind of lean into some of these leaders in that industry. And I did so well that from the early part of 1995 to the end of 1998, I absolutely made $0 in that industry. I never got a single check. I spent a lot of money on all the products and all that. I got into a telecom business during the big breakup of the telecom industry. And I finally got my first check in February of 1999 for $7.87. And I had the biggest happy dance party. It took me 3 years and 2 months, basically, to earn $7.87. Now, I kept leaning into these people, and it was a very sad time in my life because I started reading all these leadership books. I started reading direct sales books. I started reading, team building books. I started reading the importance of being around people that you want to be like. And unfortunately, I was hanging out with guys that were passionate about bowling on Wednesday night or fishing on Saturday and Sunday. And I'm not knocking that because I love fishing and all that, but they just worked a job and then they wanted to just go play. And that was what they were going to do their whole life. And I just could not see myself doing that. And so one of the hardest things for me was to start to slowly disassociate myself with people that certainly were not making the kind of income that I aspired to make. And I started associating with people and reading books of very wealthy people. I've read every book that Robert Kiyosaki's written, and Donald Trump, and whether you hate him or love him, it doesn't matter. He's written some great books. And I started just being around those people. And they say that, you can take the average income of the 5 people that you associate with, and that's the income that you're going to have, or even better, right? And so that was true for me. I just took that $7.87 check And the next month it was like $13. And the next month it was like $47. But over the course of the next 12, 13, 14 years, I made about $4.5 million and retired at a very young age on passive income, not a check, not transactional income. It was passive, which means whether I rolled over or rolled out of bed, that income was hitting my bank account either daily. I was with a company called Prepaid Legal Services, which is now called Legal Shield. It was basically a legal insurance product. Maybe some of you own that service. If you don't, you probably should, because it's just a fantastic service. I sold identity theft protection with that company as well for about 11 years. And I did very, very well. So passive income really sings to me and it fills my cup because I raised 5 children starting at 13 to 3 on passive income on a full-time basis. It took me 14 months of the hardest work in my entire life because I had a 7-state territory in the Rocky Mountain region with the Iams Pet Food Company. I was gone 70 to 80% of the time. I never saw my kids. I came up with an acronym for IAMS, which stood for I agree to marital separation, which ultimately ended up in a self-fulfilling prophecy, sadly, during COVID. But one of the things that my former wife said when we started having success, we're generating, $30, $40, $50,000 a month in income. Someone asked her, what's the best part about the business that you guys are in? And she said, the best part is I got my husband back, because I was gone all the time. And so when I got the phone call from my friend, some of you may know Wendy Patton. I'll just throw her name out there. If you go to Amazon or whatever, she's like the guru on lease options. I don't know anybody better than Wendy Patton. She's just a guru when it comes to numbers. And she owned a Keller Williams franchise up in northern Michigan. And she called me up and introduced me to this opportunity with Keller Williams, which number one, I didn't want a job, but I thought, heck, for that kind of money, they were going to pay, close to $250,000 with bonuses. And I got to work with a lady named Kristen Cole, who's an icon, very, very well-known person at Keller Williams because she was Gary Keller's kind of right hand when it came to this thing called, what was it called? ESO, expansion systems orientation. Anyway, basically expanding your real estate business outside of your backyard into other states and countries. So I got the opportunity to work with some very talented people. But what really drew me to Keller Williams back then, it was late December of 2015, was this thing that they had called profit share. And when they explained it to me, I'm like, well, that's passive income. You recruit people, they go sell houses, and you get a little piece of the action. And so that was really impressive to me. And so I went ahead and got hired. I don't know how the heck that happened, but they hired me, and I guess I brought in different philosophies and what GK, we call Gary Keller GK, what he, shared. I brought in outside the box thinking, different ways of looking at business and growth and leadership, things that my agents were not really used to hearing. And they liked what I was teaching them and training them on. And somehow I lucked out and just really crushed it my first year at KW. And then my second year, I did it equally as well. And third year, equally as well. And ended up leading 3 different Keller Williams in the Phoenix marketplace. And I only say all of that to say this: I had never had a job in a building where I had to have people around me. I always had a sales job that I worked from my home, whether it was selling Revlon cosmetics. My first company was Clairol, so I sold hair color for a couple of years. And then I got recruited by Revlon Cosmetics to sell lipstick, nail polish, eyeshadow, all that. It's kind of scary. I still have dreams of waking up knowing all the numbers on all the bottles of nail polish. It's so bizarre. I never knew that I was going to get a private university education to go sell hair color and lipstick for the first 6 years of my life. But that's exactly what I did. And then my life, I always say, it went to the dogs and the cats because I got recruited by the Imes pet food company, which, was kind of like neck and neck with Science Diet, which I'm sure all of you have heard of both of those brands. And I spent 8 years of my life selling dog food. If you can imagine waking up in the morning, and just getting so charged up that you get to go out there and sell dog food and cat food for a living. It was a living nightmare. And until my friend called me and said, "Hey, you got to look at this opportunity." And I sucked so bad for 3 years and 2 months. I did not make a single penny. But then when I got that first check, I call it the belief check, that lit me up. And that's when I just put my head down. And for 14 months, I spent 70% of the time traveling, and whatever time I had in hotel rooms or, at home, if I was lucky enough to be at home, I actually called a special family meeting with my 5 kids, and my wife talked about it. And I made a special sign to put on my door, my office door in my home. And if it said, if the little green thing was hanging, that means the kids could come in and talk to daddy. But if the red was up there, the only time they could come into daddy's office was if there was blood or fire. And I made it very clear to them that I was doing this for them, that if I really, really worked hard, that instead of daddy being gone so much and missing all their gymnastics meets and their t-ball games, that I could spend more time with them. And so our entire family bought into my dream, my vision of building this empire. And it took me a while to do it. But after 14 months, I was making 3 times more per month in passive residual income than it took me 13 years to get to in corporate America, making a paycheck. And then I parlayed that into millions of dollars, moving forward. So when I went to work for Keller Williams, it was actually the very first company that I'd ever worked in a building. And I remember telling my then wife, I said, if I have to go to work every day and I'm surrounded by a bunch of crabby people, I'm going to go nuts. And that's exactly what happened, because the only good agents were out doing what good agents are supposed to do. And all the drama people were in the office in we called the bullpen, talking about their drunken experiences the previous weekend or their girlfriend cheating on them, or, I'd walk out there and hear all kinds of conversation that had nothing to do with real estate. And I'd have to come in there and break it up and say, "Guys, what are you doing? Are you working on your dream? You working on your vision? Or are you just BSing, right?" So it really kind of did take a toll on me working around these kind of crabby little agents and being in a building that I couldn't really spend a whole lot of time outside of. And so when the phone call came through with Rob Flick and he took me golfing and shared the opportunity with EXP, it just blew my mind, because I was so saddened by the things that I was seeing at Keller Williams. Even though I was the CEO of the company, I ran all the financial statements, the balance sheets, the P&Ls. It was my job to bring in a profit. The owners would, and at least this was in Arizona, I'm not saying this was everywhere, but the owners that I worked for, they would do everything they could to suck all the profit out so that they didn't have to share the profit. And every one of them I had, a come to Jesus meeting with, because I said, "Look, I can't do this by myself. I need these 400 agents to be incentivized and motivated to bring their agents to me so I can bring them to Keller Williams. But if there's no money in it for them, why do you expect they're going to spend their time when they can go out and make a hell of a lot more money selling houses than they can, with this little profit share thing?" And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. They were the owners. They had the final say. They would always say, when you take people to mega camp or family reunion down in Austin, take them all to dinner, spend all the money on them, make them feel happy, get them drunk, whatever. They just wanted to get rid of all that profit. So it's really hard for me, because I understood at a very deep level, because I spent 20 years of my life building teams in the tens of thousands. My team, when I left prepaid legal services, was about 23,000 independent agents. So building a brokerage with 200 agents to 400 agents, which everybody thought, I was some sort of a god because I did it in my first year. To me, that was a miserable failure, because I was used to recruiting so many more people than that. But what I started to figure out was that the revenue share piece of EXP was about 40 times more lucrative mathematically, at least it has been for me, than my profit share check that I still get every month on the 21st from Keller Williams. And so because I lived on passive income for 20 years of my life plus, because I raised 5 children, put them through college, helped them with their little entrepreneurial ventures, I just fell in love with passive income. And so you're literally listening to someone, looking at someone who eats, sleeps, dreams passive income. And I just have to share this quick little story before we get a little more granular. I met, I fell back in love with my high school sweetheart from 1978. We both had failed marriages, and God brought us back together on January 4th, 2019, with a little message that I sent to her. Hadn't talked to her in over 20 years, and I just wished her a happy birthday because that is her birthday. And long story short, we ended up dating and getting married last a year and a half ago, June. So it's been a year and a half now. And I never got, because of COVID and because of my divorce and having to pay $4,000 a month, to my ex in spousal support, I just didn't have the financial ability at the time, not to mention the time, because I just launched with EXP in June of 2019, to take Jennifer on a very well-deserved honeymoon. So we literally just got back 3 days ago from spending 12 glorious days in Playa del Carmen and Cozumel, and I wined and dined that little gal, and we had the best time. And I got to tell you guys, I'm reading this book. We both are reading this book. It's such a great book for couples. If you've never read the book, Hold Me Tight, you got to get that book. It is such a great book. I'm devouring it, like studying every page, and I'm learning all the deficiencies that I've had throughout my entire life, and being a better husband, a better father, and a better human being. And so I'm reading this book, Hold Me Tight. And we have this app that we can download to our phone. So many of you, I hope you have it. You can see it right there, called My EXP, right? And if you don't have it, you got to get it. You can go to the website as well, log into my.exprealty.com, but you can download the app. So I'm reading the book, and about every couple of hours, I open up my little revenue share app. Right now they're processing, so you can't see the numbers because we're getting ready to get paid here in a few days. And I'd open up my app and I'd turn to my babe and I'd say, honey, our rev share went up $1,100 in the last 2 hours. And then about 2 hours later, I would open it up again. I go, babe, it went up another $800. And then I'd open it up again later at dinner. I go, babe, our revenue share went up $3,200 just today, right? So to me, that is such a blessing, and it requires work. Just like Rome wasn't built in a day, I've worked my butt off building my team during a 100-year worldwide pandemic, which has been no easy feat. That certainly, I think if I would have been at EXP 3 years prior, instead of being a KW, I'd have thousands of people on my team right now. And I'm still a little baby when it comes to revenue share in terms of my total team. But per agent, my revenue share income has got to be one of the highest in the company because our agents are high producing agents, and it just is such a blessing. So that's a little of my backstory, why I'm so passionate about revenue share, passive income, because to me, it's a lot easier to list agents than it is to list houses. Because agents put their picture and their phone number on signs in people's front yard, and all you got to do is take a picture of it, call them up, and ask them if they'd like to collaborate in this, higher interest rate market, and go start to build that relationship and just see where it goes from there, right? And that's what I've done for the last 3.5 years. And now I don't have to sell another house the rest of my life if I don't want to, because revenue share has got everything covered and then some, a lot more than some. And so that's a little bit of the backstory I wanted to share with you guys. And so we have probably another, 30 minutes together or less if we want to cut it loose, cut it a little bit short. But really what I'd like to do, instead of, continuing my talking, I'd like to listen. And I'd like to hear from you guys, anybody that has any sort of hang up on rev share, you don't understand it, how to talk to agents. How does the mathematics work behind it? Any sort of good, bad, or ugly. I don't care. This is unplugged, Tony Hughes style. So feel free to unmute yourselves if you have anything whatsoever you want to talk about, as long as it relates to revenue share, because that is one of the, I guess we have, like Sasha was saying, 8 different ways that we're compensated here. But the three biggest ways, obviously, are transactional income, stock, and revenue share, right? Those are the 3 biggies. And revenue share can end up being the biggest income that you've ever built in your whole life, because it doesn't just depend on you. I put a very simple graphic up on my Facebook page a few weeks ago, and the caption, it had a little stick figure man, and it said, and then it had another stick figure woman over here with about 100 little stick figure people underneath her. And I said, who do you think will generate the most income? The person that is working just with themselves, or the person that has hundreds of agents on their team that they're earning a little bit of money on every single time someone closes the house? Now, if you don't get that visual, I can't help you. But to me, it's, who was it? J. Paul Getty, that said, I would rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own efforts. And that's a concept that Gary Keller talks about in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. He talks about the 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. And most agents get leads. They understand they don't have a real estate business if they don't have leads. They understand you got a list to last. But what I've found, and no disrespect to any of you on Zoom tonight or anybody watching the recording, is the vast majority of real estate agents do not understand this concept of leverage. They just think they go out there and sling houses till they die and hope to make enough money to be able to make it through their retirement or what have you, versus the teamwork making the dream work. And they get this, drunk monkey talking to them saying, I can't build a team. I hate recruiting, blah, blah, blah. It ain't about recruiting. It's about making friends. That's all it is. It's about creating relationships and building your friendship portfolio, your friendship database. And the great thing about being a realtor and being a team builder with our revenue share program is we get to choose who we want to work with. And I've probably said no to more people than I've said yes to, because I have this uncanny ability, after building a team of 23,000 independent contractors, to size people up in about 15 seconds. And I can tell just from their voice inflection, their attitude, their facial expression, whether it's someone that I want to spend the rest of my life in business with or let someone else have them. And so it's a great thing to be able to choose who you surround yourself with. And that's one of the great blessings of rev shares. You get to build basically a brokerage inside a brokerage without any compliance issues. That's the broker's job, to manage all the compliance and all the employees that work at EXP. So, all right, I've said enough. I'm going to open it up. Let's just see if anybody's brave enough to unmute their mic and jump in.
Hey, Tony, this is Daniel Lang from Dallas.
Hey, Daniel, how's it going, man? Good to see you, brother.
Good. I've been in the company. This month is my 2nd year.
Congratulations. Well, that's fantastic.
I have an organization of 138 people now.
You're killing it, man. You're killing it.
And just continue to just kind of build for. It's like you said, it's a people relationship, right? And people you don't look at them as numbers. We look at it as relationships, building something. What our group, I think, is a little unique because we're on the commercial real estate side.
Yeah.
We do a lot of investments and finding different talent to create a real estate club in a sense. So our organization is kind of finding different entrepreneurs, like lenders that are licensed, attorneys that are licensed, CPAs that are licensed. So we're creating something of value. And from there, I think our group has a value prop. So whatever you're building, you have to create some value. And then, so that's how I feel like we distinguish ourselves with, there's 86,000 agents, right?
Yep.
So, and there's all, every group has their uniqueness. So,
you really hit on a big point. My younger brother, Jeff, who just turned 60 on December 7th, Pearl Harbor, he had a really funny quote 15 years ago. He said, if you want to know if you're a leader or not, all you have to do is look over your left shoulder. And if you have people following you, you're a leader. If you don't have anybody back there, you probably need to work on your leadership a little bit. And the best way that you can have a following is to provide that value. Just like a lunch and learn or a wealth building Wednesday or a big win Wednesday or whatever it is, if there's value there, people will show up. And if there's no value there, they're not going to show up. You watch what happens to season 2 of Big Win Wednesday when we get through the holidays and get into next year. This thing's going to blow up because we are bringing so much value. It makes me want to cry, honestly, guys. I really get emotional when I look at the names on here, and I literally sent out a blast. I got one of my awesome agents, Rhonda. You're the only one out of the entire team that took time out to associate with all these winners. And I want to cry for the rest of them. I'm like, what do you not get about collaborating with geniuses, right? With people that are making it happen. And so as we go into next year, just like you, Daniel, bringing the value to all these wonderful professional people, we're going to see that value continue to be brought here, and it will continue to grow. And this will continue to be a great revenue share building platform. It'll be a great transactional income building platform because of our wonderful, talented icons that share here every week. So thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree with you more. Anybody else want to talk rev share? I'd love to talk rev share.
Tony, so sorry, I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
When you present, and for me, I need the whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
I think the whiteboard is very powerful. Explaining, it's a visual. People write it down, they take a picture of it. I think that's how I close people. I can't go to a lunch and try to explain the model, right? Because their attention span is all over the place. So I think having a whiteboard presenting the rev share and having a screen for the presentation, I think is very important.
Couldn't agree with you more. I could turn my computer around, you'd see 2 giant whiteboards. I think they're the biggest Hobby Lobby sells, and they cover the whole wall here in my office. But I couldn't agree with you more. I love it. I used to, back to my network marketing days, literally draw out my organization, and I started off with like a marker like this, and then it got so big that I had to go with a fine point and erase everything and make the names a lot smaller because it was expanding all over the whiteboard and I didn't have room to put everybody's names on there. With EXP, guys, we have this thing called a wealth chart, and I hope that each one of you have a wealth chart on your wall somewhere. I'm just going to pop over here real quick and just share my screen for just a second. You can Google wealth chart, Google wealth chart EXP Realty, and you will find several variations of the wealth chart that Rob Flick and Scott Lewis are the ones that kind of created this whole thing. But to me, I'm a kinesthetic learner. And so for me to be able to have a whiteboard or something that I can draw on, that's the way my brain works best. But if you haven't got a wealth chart printed off, it's not on your wall, and you don't understand it, the first thing that I would say tonight is please go watch some videos on how to use your wealth chart. And I'm just going to share this other screen real quick here because I want to show you where you can find my good friend. My sponsor is Scott Lewis. Even though Rob Flick is the one that called me and set up the initial meeting, he let Scott be my sponsor, which I'm really grateful for because he's a Texan and I'm a Texan and we get along splendidly. But let me blow this up a little bit so you can see it. So I hosted Scott at a lunch and learn in Scottsdale. This was right during the middle of COVID, June 2020. And if you guys haven't watched these two videos, just go on YouTube and type in Scott Lewis Ninja. We used to have a team called the Ninja Free Agent Team, and we recorded him. And this is a fantastic two-part that Scott just really did a great job on. And I really encourage you guys to go watch that. The other one, of course, if you just type in Rob Flick, EXP, wealth chart, and Google this, you'll start to see, let's see if I can find it right. This one right here. That is a fantastic video that Rob did. And then there's another one, this one right here. If you see this little wealth chart, this was Rob's original wealth chart, and he does the whole video. It's it's a few years old now, but he does a whole video on explaining it and how to build it and how to grow it out. So rather than getting into all that tonight, just do yourself a favor and go watch those videos if you haven't already done so. Print off your wealth chart and start using it every single month. We're coming up to the middle of the month right now. Here January 1st, when all the numbers come out, you go in there and you change, take a pencil and use your eraser and put the new numbers in. And it just literally allows you to see with your little empire being built right before your eyes. And if you just are consistent and passionate about EXP, right, no one's going to be attracted to you if you're not excited, enthusiastic, passionate. You got to be passionate. You got to be a believer in all things EXP. If you have any negativity of anything about EXP, you need to get that addressed, flush it out of your brain, and get your positive mindset all around this incredible opportunity, because that authenticity is what's going to draw people to you, right? So just wanted to share wealth chart and the videos that are out there that you can learn from that will really help educate you on how to use those systems to build your empire. Why would anybody want to do this by themselves when they could literally bless the lives? Rhonda, would you mind if I picked on you, even though, we didn't have this, set up or anything, but, you just came from another brokerage in Canada. Tell us just a little bit about your story and, coming over to EXP and what your vision is, what your plans are for revenue share and building your team.
Sure. So my journey, I started off, I've been mostly with independent brokerages. And for the last 3.5 years, I had my own company that I had started as an independent brokerage. And long story short, decided to go to EXP just because I did exactly what most are doing that are thinking about coming to EXP. I looked at the traditional models and went, I have nothing when this is over. Once upon a time, we might have been able to sell our brokerages and made some money on it so that we could retire, but that's not going to be the reality when I'm ready to retire. So when I found out about the EXP model, it took me very little time to ask for the paperwork to sign up. It was just a no-brainer for me to come on board and, get started. And for me, it's been kind of a twofer. There's that I can actually see retirement now, even though that's, many years away. I can actually go, I'll be able to retire and not to have had to save a bunch of money and put them into, some sort of savings or bonds or RSPs or whatever. And then the other piece is I got really excited about real estate again. This is the first time in my real estate life, which is just shy of 10 years, that I'm excited, one, about selling real estate again, and two, about getting other people to sell real estate. I have never been so excited about having a brokerage that I'm proud to bring people into.
I love that.
And I'm excited about the opportunity that gives them, whether it is in rev share or not, just the opportunity to be here, and the tools and the people and the culture and the community is worth it. Hands down.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I think Brandon Moore sponsored you, correct, Rhonda?
Correct.
Brandon reached out to me because we were actually in a network marketing company together, and and he called me up and wanted to know, he actually didn't know that I had left Keller Williams. He called me up and asked me, what do I know about EXP? And I said, what do you want to know? And he goes, well, I've got a guy pitch me on it. And I just thought, you probably had heard about it. And I go, I'm actually with EXP, Brandon. I left Keller Williams. And he told me this story about how he had a lawyer in Canada review this document and it was all approved. And some Canadian real estate, authority slapped a $5,000 fine on Brandon for doing something that legally he thought he was perfectly in the right because he paid a lawyer to set it up. No, not according to the Canadian real estate folks. They slapped him with a fine. When he called me, he said something really interesting. He said, Tony, I just want to go back to selling real estate and having fun doing it. Just what you just said. And I said, Brandon, you're not going to believe this. And this was pre-COVID. But I said, our mantra at EXP is making real estate fun again, right? Once COVID came along, it's still the same mantra, but we came up with a new little saying that says, we were built for this, right? EXP was built for this virtual environment where we didn't have to go into a room with 50 people and walk out and, get sick for the next 3 weeks. So, I love that. Thank you for sharing your story. What's your vision as far as building your little brokerage now inside the brokerage without having to be, the compliance officer?
Well, yeah, for me, when I sat back and I looked at building a brokerage and really, because I wanted to have a brokerage that, brand mattered, and I wanted to make sure that when I brought agents on that they didn't dilute the brand. And then there's that whole overhead of all of that. So to build a brokerage, you need a lot of agents. And as soon as you go to have a lot of agents, everything gets diluted. Your time, your brand, everything, right? So as soon as I saw the XP model, I'm like, so I guess back up a little bit. So then I'm like, well, I'm just going to sell real estate. I'm not going to bring any other agents on it. I just can't make that work. I'll just sell real estate. So lots and lots of houses. And then I kind of went, well, wait a minute, with EXP, they can come on and they can have their own brand. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be connected to my brand. The infrastructure's there. We have the brokerage, we have all this amazing training, we have all these people. And I can just get passionate about people and bring people on to such a, to all these wonderful things. And I get to still sell real estate if I want to. So initially it was about, that transition, because it's only been a couple of months for me. And it was that transition of, okay, head down, let's just get into the muck of it all, learn all of these things. And, it's kind of funny because now I'm out of the learning and I'm still excited. It's not like, you try something new and you get excited about it and then you kind of dive into the weeds and you get bogged down. I'm past that and still excited about it. So I'm going to build a team. So that thought of not building something that I had pre-coming to EXP and just selling real estate, it's not there anymore. I'm excited about, building a team, and I'm already working on 2 or 3 agents that I'm going to be bringing on. And again, they can do what they want to do. Or, I can mentor them, I can help them, whatever they want it to be is what it can be. Where
Right.
If it was my own company, you got to have some boundaries that way, right? Where with EXP, sky's the limit.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing,
Yeah.
Ron. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I wanted to share. I went to the Concord 2023 and I built my.
Look at you, girl. Atta girl. Way to do it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That was an amazing event that those Scott
Yes.
and Tom, it was just Haley, that was so good. We have so much great talent here at EXP and just fun people.
And they're not afraid to
Thank you.
share.
Anybody else, bottom line revenue share is just pretty simple. You don't need to be the messenger. It's actually better. And I hate to get, religion, bring religion in or any specific religion. I am a Christian, but, Jesus, he taught a very simple principle to his disciples. He taught them to go 2 by 2. Does anybody remember reading that in the Bible? 2 by 2. Why did he tell them to go 2 by 2 instead of Paul, you go there, Peter, you go there, Thomas, you go there, right? Why did he tell them to go 2 by 2? Anybody?
Because when you have the help of another, I mean, you guys can work collectively. And I mean, in that case in the Bible, it was more like he can lean on his brother, or you know what I mean? So
it's the same in revenue share. It's the same in team building. We get to lean on our sister, lean on our brother. Maybe where we're a little bit not quite as passionate about something, our partner can be the fill-in, or maybe if we forget something, they can jump in there. Having an accountability partner, someone that you can kick their butt and they can kick your butt. You know, to me, that is just so important that we don't do this individually. This is a team sport. It's a contact sport, meaning person to person, belly to belly. You know, this virtual thing is cool, but there's nothing better than breaking bread with an agent that you really don't know, that you're trying to build a relationship with, and authentically not look at them as your next recruit, but looking at them as a perpetual business partner that will create an annuity for your family potentially for years and years to come. And beside that, a new friend, right? That's all I do. I don't recruit. I just make new friends. And every time I talk to someone, it's like I'm talking to them like I've known them for 20 years. And they love that. People don't like cold calling. They don't like people that, we get enough of that, right? We get those things on our phones that say possible spam or whatever, right? People like authenticity. They like real people. And so it gives you the opportunity to really go out there and do that. I just had a young lady that I totally forgot about. Her name is Uma. She is from India. And I guess I talked to her in February or March of this year. And she called me just a couple of days ago, texted me and said, Tony, I'd really like to talk to you again about EXP. And I'm like, who is this lady? And so I texted her and I said, Uma, I don't remember you. And she goes, oh, we had a Zoom meeting back in February of this year. And so I went back and searched in my little computer and I found that calendar. And I went, oh my gosh, I totally remember that. So we hopped on Zoom together and she told me her story. She told me that she went to Coldwell Banker. She just thought that maybe Coldwell Banker would, with the bigger name, longer, been around for 100 and some odd years, that would give her a little bit of a leg up. And she said, Tony, my mentor, she's in her 80s. And every time I ask her to, for something, she goes, oh, there's a video for that. Just go find it and, you'll figure it out. And she said, I just really have not had the kind of support that I thought I would have. And she goes, and every time I drive around Phoenix, I always see these darn Regis buildings. And I think to myself, if I would have just signed up in EXP in the beginning, I would have had all these offices that I could have gone into for free, to do my business rather than meeting in a Starbucks or a Panera Bread or something like that. But, sometimes it's like that, right? You'll create a relationship. You may forget about them. I count myself as a pretty good follow-upper, but I didn't do a very good job with Uma. Thankfully, she did a good job following up with me, but she just severed yesterday from Coldwell Banker and she's joining EXP tomorrow. So I'm really excited to, make a new friend from India. I love Indian people. I love their food. I love their culture. I've got a lot of Indian folks on my team actually that are icons, family that have two icons. And so, yeah, that's just what it's all about, just making friends. But guys, here's the thing. I love how Sasha had the slide in his presentation with 5 agents that you bring on your front line. We call that front line, FLA or FLQA if they're a qualified agent, meaning they've sold a house and they've earned at least $5,000 in commission, or 2 houses in a combination was 5,000 or greater. We call that an FLQA agent, frontline qualified agent. You need 5 of those in order to unlock that little key to unlock the second level so that you can get paid the full $3,200 on every capping agent on your second level that your agents bring in. But I like the fact that he started off with 5. If you'll just do the math, right? If you bring 5 people in and they bring 5 people in, how many people do we have on the team, including yourself? How many people? If you bring 5 people in and they bring 5 people in, including yourself, how many people are now on your team? 31. Right, Daniel, exactly. Right, because you've got your 5 and then 25 underneath them. Now do it again. What if those 25 bring in 5? That's 125. What if those 125 bring in 5? That's 625. And what if those 625 bring in 5? I think it's 3,125. And if you add all those up, it's thousands of agents. And if all of them just sold 1 or 2 or 3 houses a year, they don't need to all be cappers. You earn revenue share, whether they sell 1 house or 10 houses, every time they close a deal, right? And even if you haven't unlocked the 2nd level or the 3rd level or the 4th level, you still get paid a little bit of rev share. If you understand the system and how it works, you still get a little something. You can go buy a Big Mac and a Diet Coke probably with it. But once you unlock those 2nd, 3rd, 4th levels by building wide, right? But to me, 5 is a really good number because most people can wrap their arms around the number 5. And I had an early mentor, he's dead now, his name was Wilburn Smith, but he said, this was back in my MLM days, he said, Tony, if you'll build 5 wide, he said he's from Ada, Oklahoma, so I have to say it like Wilburn. Tony, if you'll build it 5 wide and 5 deep, you'll be a millionaire. And you can't debate me on it because I'm a multi-millionaire. And that's how I built it. So I love the way he did that in his presentation tonight, because it really starts with that. You go with 5, get those 5. They got to be selling at least a couple houses a year, but you really want to shoot for, people that are doing 20, 30, 40 deals a year and they want to double it, right? We have the power. We have the technology. We have the training. We have the broker support to make that happen at EXP. And I have absolutely zero doubt in my mind about that because I've watched it happen to Brandon Moore, your sponsor, Rhonda. I've watched it happen. I think that our team dominates Saskatchewan, Canada. Saskatoon, we probably do more than 50% of the volume because Brandon, when he came over, he brought a brokerage of 5 agents plus himself. That doubled the number of agents in that one province. And today, Brandon has dozens and dozens of agents on his team in that province. So I'm certain that we dominate the production in at least one of the 10 provinces of Canada. And it just takes a life of its own. If you'll just get the thing started and just be passionate, don't use your mouth, guys. Use the tools. We've got great tools out there. Brent Gove's got a great video out there, themodelexplained.com. There's other great tools out there. You can get people on 3-way calls with people like Gene Frederick. By the way, my.exprealty.com. If you go there, you will, whether you have a rev share team or not yet, you still have the ability to click on a little button that will show you every person in your upline 7 levels above you. If you're, if there's that many levels above you, right? So you literally have the names, phone numbers of every person above you that is financially vested in your success. And I can almost guarantee you that if you reach out to any of those people, if they're serious about, EXP and there is not a name on a roster, they're going to be a great resource for you to introduce your friends to this opportunity. Let someone else tell the story. You don't want to be the storyteller. And that's another reason why, third party is always better than first party. You just have to trust me on that. If you don't understand it, your mouth can get you in trouble because I'm a professional salesperson. I was trained by multi-billion-dollar international conglomerates. I literally have spent days in these these big conference rooms, like right next to a 5-star, a golf course in what was that? Right next to where Clint Eastwood lives. And I remember as a grown man in my late 20s, I was literally, they had everybody in the room. They broke us down and made us all cry. Men and women, we were all bawling. They had us so mentally jacked up. It was a weird way of getting people through this sales process. But when we came out of it, we were lean, mean, fighting, selling machines. And I could sell ice to an Eskimo in the middle of January in 40 degree below zero weather because I've been trained to do that. Here's the problem with that. If everybody that you talk to can't be as good as you, you will never build a team that duplicates. So that's why I have to remove myself out of the process. I'll start it with my passion, my enthusiasm, but then I'll get them to watch a video and I'll set up a firm follow-up time with them. I always like to use 4 words: for sure, for sure. 6 o'clock, for sure, for sure. I can call you at 6 o'clock. For sure, you will have watched that 35-minute video. For sure, for sure. And they go, for sure, right? And that's my closing technique. And if I can get them on that video, I ask them 3 questions. When I call them back at 6 o'clock or whenever, I say, what did you like best about what you saw? And whatever they say, I do a backflip and I go, oh my God, that's exactly why I came to EXP. I'm so glad that you're passionate about that, right? I affirm whatever it is they like best. You don't ever ask the question, what do you think? Because a lot of people just don't think, or they might turn it into a negative, right? The second question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? 10 being like, dude, sign me up. 1, I hate this company, don't want anything to do with it. If they're a 7 or higher, that is a hot potato. If they're a 5 or a 6, that's a maybe. If they're a 1 through 4, you need to hang up, get away from them, and never talk to them again. Just get away from them. They're crabs. They're gonna pull you down. 5s and 6s, I go, oh shoot, I was kind of hoping you'd be at least a 7 because I only work with 7s and above. I'm sorry you didn't quite make the cut. And I have a pregnant pause on purpose, because they say 9 times out of 10, I didn't know I needed to be a certain number. I guess I'm a 7. Awesome. I really would love the opportunity to work with you. What would it take to get you to a 10? Well, it kind of needs some more information. I need to know more about how this works or that works. So my final question is, would you be offended if I introduced you to my wonderful business partner who knows 100% of the facts about this great brokerage, is leading the international expansion of our company, and loves helping agents just like you and me have great success? Oh, I wouldn't be offended. And then I coordinate a 3-way text, set up a 3-way text so I can get a conference call with Scott Lewis or Rob Flick or Gene Frederick or whomever. Tom Trong's done 3-way calls for me, even though we're not on the same team, and I've done them for him. So it doesn't really matter. But that's really it, guys. And that's just, if someone says no, maybe all that means is not now. They're just not quite ready. That's okay. Our favorite word is next, and we move on. But I usually like to say, listen, I understand that this isn't for you right now, and I'm not pressuring you, because I'm not looking for anybody to come over here under pressure, right? A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, and I don't want people like that. I want you to be sold on this. However, can I have your permission to reach back to you about every 6 months just to see how you're doing? And see if I can be of help. And they go, absolutely. And I'll put a little thing in my iPhone 6 months from that date, set a reminder, call this person, put their phone number in there, pick up the phone. Hey, 6 months ago, we talked, just wanted to reach out like I promised I would, and take it from there. Well, guys, I've gone over, and I apologize. I'm just looking at the time here, but any final comments, questions, anything anybody wants to throw out before we wrap this baby up?
Tony, thank you so much for leading the call tonight. It was great. It was amazing, very professional. I wanted to say that I appreciate Glenn Sanford to creating what he created with our company, and I appreciate every single one of you on the call tonight for making our community, for growing together, and for spreading love with everybody. So I appreciate every one of you on the phone call today. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas. We're going to do this, guys, every week. We decided that we were just going to plow through it. So we're going to do it next Wednesday. We're going to do it next Wednesday. We're going to go right through the holidays, whether we have 2 people on here or 200, it doesn't matter. We're going to keep this momentum train going. Sasha, you did an extraordinary job tonight explaining the EXP model. Thank you so much for doing that.
My pleasure.
Well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Sasha.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a wonderful rest of your evening, guys. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye-bye.